And I wanted to just, share a little bit about why we came up with the Invest Georgia Exemption. I think you heard from Vincent Russo, my past general counsel and securities commissioner, yesterday, or maybe he's on the panel today. I know Ryan Germany, I think, may have spoke to y'all yesterday, who's my current general counsel. And both of those guys, like myself, have the mentality that, that I have of being a small business owner. That's why I ran for the legislature to start with, was really to bring a small business owner's perspective to state government. I had a construction company, several other businesses that I've started, things that I'm still involved with now in a lot of different sectors, and my thought and my mission has only increased from when I first ran for the legislature, because even after I got in government, I saw that there was even more of a need for small business owners, kind of common sense approach to government, really having leaders in government that are providing an environment where the private sector and the market can work. And that's what we're doing in the Secretary of State's office in a lot of different areas of our agency, but it's certainly what led me as the Securities Commissioner for the state of Georgia to really push forward with, be one of the first 2 states in the country to have this exemption in federal securities law, what we call the Invest Georgia Exemption, or IGE, because we felt like it was a way that we could really just let the market work, help be part of the ecosystem to help our entrepreneurs and small business people and our investors here in the state of Georgia. And we're really excited about where we are and where we've come from and where we're going. And I'll speak to more of that in a little bit. But the Invest Georgia Exemption is an interstate crowdfunding exemption, as I said. And basically it's allowing, Georgia companies, Georgia entrepreneurs to raise money from Georgia investors with very little compliance and startup cost, which I think is a good thing. We wanted to expand the ways that people could get access to capital from Georgia investors and enable for them to develop their business ventures or expand existing operations and really help be part of the job creation team here in the state of Georgia. And since 2011, we've had 36 businesses, mostly startups and other young businesses, apply for the exemption. They include breweries, medical technology firms, real estate financing firms, and manufacturers, just to name a few. And 36 doesn't sound like a lot, but NASA did a nationwide survey of the 30 states that have enacted interstate crowdfunding exemptions and found that 30% of all of those have been found right here in Georgia. And I think that percentage, higher percentage would be if we were basing it on the amount of money raised and not necessarily on the number of companies. We've seen companies raise over $2 million, which is certainly not a staggering amount by any means, but it is, $2 million more than was out there when we started this. I think in a lot of ways, we're helping fill the market for smaller community-based banks that, because of regulations and other things, it has made it harder for them to lend to certain types of individuals. And then there's a lot of these companies that are not quite ready for institutional funding, so it gives them another option to be able to go to the market. In full disclosure, I will say that most of the money that's been raised has been from a single company, which is Ground Floor, which is a debt securities companies or issues that are being introduced by Ground Floor. I know I think those guys are going to be speaking to you all later today, so I won't spend a lot of time telling you about their business, but basically they moved from the Research Triangle in North Carolina to Georgia after looking really at all the crowdfunding, interstate crowdfunding laws across the country, and really found that ours here were really the best fit anywhere to do their platform. And I think that's because we started early. We've got, very good rules in place, and we had, $1 million limit when we started, and they just looked at the environment. So that made us feel good about what we had done, and they have been very successful. We're also very happy that they've been able to expand their operations to other states using the SEC Reg A+ structure, and certainly wish them well in that regard. I think they're gonna do great. I know a lot of people really feel like they have been, I know the company's ground floor, but they are doing some groundbreaking things because of IGE and of course because of them and their forward-thinking ways of taking advantage of this, and we're hoping that other companies will be able to do that as well. And we're actually aware of a few things that we believe are coming down the pipe that I think will be very interesting to keep an eye on, and hopefully we'll be able to talk about those things very soon. On the specifics of IGE, one of the things that I think really makes it so good is that it's just very simple. And whenever you're dealing with the government, there are not many things that are simple. If you think about filling out your tax return and other things, I tell people all the time, our corporation's website used to be very complicated. So we got rid of it and got a new corporation's website now where literally with one click of a button you can renew your annual registration if you don't have any changes to it. I mean, it's made a dramatic difference for us. When I first started building with my construction company, 25, 30 years ago, the easiest thing you could do was go get a building permit. The hard part was building the building. Now it's completely reversed. Because of government intervention and regulations, now you basically have to pay somebody to go get your building permits for you. It's such a complex and time-consuming thing. So I think one of the benefits of IGE is it is very simple. Really the only requirements are the issuers have to be a for-profit Georgia entity. They have to deposit the funds into a Georgia-based bank account or financial institution, and really just fill out a simple one and a half page application, and they can go about their business. Now, obviously, all of the other financial requirements with an offering, that still has to be done, that type of due diligence and disclosure. But as far as the part you have to do to meet, our regulations to get up and running in Georgia, they are very simple. In our offering, accredited investors can invest as much as they would like, all the way up to our cap. Unaccredited investors are limited to a $10,000 investment. And of course, all of our anti-fraud provisions of our security laws and rules are enforced, and we are very vigilant about that. There's a certain perspective from regulators across the country that regulate securities, and some of them are elected officials like myself. Others are, bureaucratic agencies that have been along a long time, and I don't say that in a negative way. I'm just saying it's a government agency. It's not run by somebody that gets hired, every 4 years by the voters or by a state legislature or appointed by a governor that may have to run for re-election. And I think that's what's different about me and some regulators. There's some that do not like this. They think that we're the wild west here. We're being too progressive. It's going to be, this whole thing is going to set the market up for fraud. Luckily, we have not seen that here in Georgia, and I hope we do, and we're keeping a very vigilant eye on that. And if you guys see or anybody sees anything fraudulent, please let us know, because we'll be very proactive about investigating that. But my stance as a business owner is people that are going to do something unscrupulous or fraudsters or identity theft people, we see it all the time. It doesn't matter what the rules are. It doesn't matter what the laws are. They're going to be bad guys regardless of that structure. My mentality is, why punish the folks that want to do things the right way and take away an advantage or an opportunity to help them have an easier time, raising capital and take advantage of this federal exemption. And let's help them and provide that good environment, and hopefully the industry will take great pride in that to make sure that they are doing things right, and then we'll go after the bad guys if they do fraud us. But I don't think that should, that fear, I don't think should take away us being proactive to help, this ecosystem that we're in. Initially, our limit, as I mentioned, I believe, was $1 million for our annual cap for the offering under the Invest Georgia Exemption. We actually had to give a waiver to ground floor to go to $2 million because they did so well early on. And, you know, when we did that, we started looking at that $2 million number and thinking, you know, we need to really raise our cap. We don't want to prohibit someone from, you know, growth because we have some sort of unrealistic limit in place. And we moved our cap to $5 million in October, really based on the feedback we were getting from them and other people that are interested in using the exemption. So all the other rules are exactly the same. We just now have a $5 million cap. And I think that you'll see other states around the country making similar moves to that. We're certainly open to moving that higher in the future. In fact, while we were at the summit in D.C., we had the opportunity to go visit with the SEC, and I know they were at the summit, and I was really quite refreshed from that meeting about the take that they were looking at in regards to caps and some of the rules that SEC is working on, and had a really great conversation with them, kind of told them where we were coming from and what we thought they, you know, shouldn't impede too much on, and one of those things was the cap. You know, there was some talk about them setting a cap. I told them that I would think that would be a bad idea, that they should leave that up to the states and let us decide what's a proper cap or not. I would hate to see a federal ruling handicap opportunities that we may have in the state. And look, $5 million is a lot of money, but in some of these worlds, it's I mean, there are companies that I actually talked to last week that on some deals, certainly not startups, but on some deals, they're spending $5 or $6 million on diligence. So, you know, I would be very careful about the federal government trying to over-regulate and setting numbers that would prohibit our community, our entrepreneurs and investors in moving the ball forward. I certainly think that as we continue to move forward, that the Invest Georgia Exemption and other types of interstate crowdfunding exemptions can play an important role in connecting our companies, our investors, and really continuing to get government out of the way and just letting the market work, as I said. And in closing, I'll say, too, that I'm very optimistic about where we are, speaking specifically to Atlanta and the state of Georgia, and in some regards in the Southeast in general. I always kid people that I know enough to be dangerous now, but from what I've seen and learned from a lot of really good people, John Yates being one of them that I think spoke to you guys yesterday, you know, just my experience of when I first became Secretary of State, seeing the crowdfunding, or not the crowd, but the startup movement and community here in the Atlanta area, not only in Atlanta, but in other places around our state, like Savannah and others. And then learning about other things that are going on across the country, you know, in Boston and in North Carolina, New York, and certainly in San Francisco and the Silicon Valley. You know, I used to worry about, you know, everybody leaving here and moving there, going to Capitol, but I'm seeing things evolve now where there's a lot of the outside money that is actually taking a really hard look into Georgia and around the Southeast. I think that's going to continue to happen. I think our ecosystem, if you will, continues to evolve with the great things that we have with our entrepreneurs, certainly with our investors, our angel investors, what we have going on with different organizations that are supporting the industry, and then certainly our university system, and then really just the environment government-wise in the state of Georgia. I mean, we've got a very business-friendly governor and legislature that are working hard to keep us, you know, the most competitive state in the country from a business perspective. We certainly have that at the top of our list as well, and work with them in regards to that. But I also think that just the amount of capital that I recently realized that's coming into Georgia in the South from outside is really very exciting. And I think part of our messaging is that we need to do a better job of promoting what we have here, promoting what we're doing to raise awareness. As you all know, and I think from what Ryan Germany told me yesterday, John Yates talked about, a lot of people don't want to move here because the Atlanta airport's so great, it's easy for people to just come in and out. And look, if that's the way it's going to work, that's fine with us. We'll fly them in here, let them invest their money, let our companies grow here. And we do stand the risk of potentially losing some that may need to move somewhere else to get better expertise in that industry. But I think we also have a great opportunity for a lot of those companies to stay, or for us to potentially pull entrepreneurs, investors, businesses, startups into Georgia, because some of the things that we may have a certain advantage on when you think about different industries that are really growing here, like fintech and healthcare, IT. And one of the things that John Yates and I have talked about is ag tech. We feel like there's a big connection between Atlanta technology and our largest economy in the state, agriculture, and that's something that we're really positioned well to take advantage of. So I'm very optimistic about the future. If I can ever be of service, I hope you guys will call on me or Ryan Germany, and we'll be glad to try to help you if we can. If we got time, I'll take some questions. Yes, sir.
The movie industry seems to be investing in Georgia. Are they one of the 36?
I don't know that we've seen any film stuff yet, but I have a good feeling that may be coming. And that's really it's a good opportunity for someone to do that. I mean, our film, television, entertainment, however you want to phrase it, here in Georgia has been incredible. I mean, this state has probably one of the best, I guess, legislative packages that's been out there to stir that investment, something that the governor has worked very hard on, the legislature, Department of Economic Development. I mean, we're literally the Hollywood of the South now. I think you'll only continue to see that grow. And one of the great things that we're seeing in the film industry is that it's not just people coming here to film a movie because of a tax credit. We now have people, putting bricks and mortar in, building studios, infrastructure. It's not easy just to abandon a place like that. And I think you'll continue to see our environment be good, and I think you'll continue to see people coming here to film. I mean, look, when people have very different opinions about Georgia and the South. I always kid people, that things have changed down here. The main change being that we now have air conditioning and people can live through the summer, right? But really, when people come to Georgia and start working here, I mean, the people are friendly. It's a great place to be. You can go to the mountains, you can go to the beach, you can go to rural areas, suburban, city life. I mean, we kind of got it all. Great infrastructure, and that's only going to continue to get better. I think anybody that comes and works in Georgia and in Atlanta, I mean, they love it. I mean, they see that we're Atlanta's an international city and we're an international state. Anybody? Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about the Invest Georgia Fund?
Yeah, I don't really know a whole lot about the fund. I mean, I know it's been out there for a while. I think the fund finally got funded a little bit, and I had seen where they had, funded a deal. Certainly, like I said, I don't know that much about it. My preference in all of this, just personally and politically, is that we need to provide an environment where the market works, not necessarily have a government fund. But that's kind of out of my purview. That was something that the legislature worked on. I've tried to concentrate on an environment where we set the rules, and then as long as you follow the rules, we just we're like the referee. We'll just let the game play on until something gets out of kilter. Yes.
Can you address a long-term issue with regards to infrastructure? I'm fortunate enough to work 3 blocks away, but I do not go to Sandy Springs between 9 and 9 o'clock. You know what I mean? And I just don't. It's just a complete, disaster? What's the state?
Well, it's kind of interesting. I was out in San Francisco not long ago, and we were talking about, a lot of this ecosystem, and, one of the things people were saying was, what about Atlanta traffic? And I was like, well, what about the dang traffic here? It's worse than Atlanta. So, I think it's like that in every big city. I will say this, the legislature and the governor took a big step last year. We've got, $800 or $900 million a year now of new transportation funding. You may have been for that or against the increase in the gas tax and other things that they did to raise that money. But regardless, it passed. That money's there. The governor rolled out a very aggressive package. I think it was earlier this week or maybe last week. I think it may have been last week. Kind of talking about a lot of things that they're going to do. And look, it's going to be painful going through that. Some of these projects in the metro area, it may take 2 or 3 years for them to get finished with all that, but I think it's going to help some. But I also believe that we're always going to deal with that issue, because we're in a great environment here. People are going to continue to want to move into our state. So we're going to have to continue dealing with population growth, and that's a good thing, but it comes with some pain in some areas. But I think that will provide some relief. And then I think you also have a lot of people, especially in the metro area legislative delegations, talking this year about, is there anything else they could do to perhaps provide, more and better public transportation. So that'll be interesting to see, where that goes. I know that's something that's a priority of the Metro Chamber of Commerce. Well, thank y'all very much for having me. Please let me know if we can ever be of service.